Oh, fellow Vaulters, Coach Hancock here with the Wrestling Vault, and our guest today, All-American from the University of Michigan, St. Ed's, just a dynamic wrestler out of St. Ed's, and new Director of Wrestling Operations at Spire Wrestling Academy, outside of Cleveland, Ohio, Mike Kulczycki. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mitch.
Hey, news broke last week. I received several texts. Check this out. Coach Kulczycki over at Spire. How did this come about? Talk to us.
Last year, Kenny Monday was here, and then he ended up taking a job at Morgan State University, I believe. And then, I got a call from Spire to see if I was interested or knew anybody that was interested in taking the job. And at first, I was pretty happy and with what I'm doing with the Wrestling Factory. I didn't see myself ever coaching at a high school, possibly. And they, had a good offer, and came out here, checked the facilities out, met with all the administrators, and I was blown away with what they have here. I coached at the University of Michigan, and they have every department checked. They have marketing, compliance, they have all the resources to be successful. The facilities are amazing. They're building a new wrestling facility. They just kind of they had new owners take over a couple years ago, and they got a school going now. They got their own academy going with 82 students. 45% of them are international students, and they want to double it by next year. So they want to get around 150, 160 students that live here on campus, and then they want to double it the following year. So they're pretty serious about what they want to do. Some of the consultants here started the IMG down in Florida.
Sure.
And that's a huge academy down there. And, the people here are amazing. They're passionate. It's pretty cool to be part of something pretty new. So.
Well, again, obviously you've been running the Wrestling Factory for well over a decade now, and just pumping out just talent all over Cleveland. Talk a little bit about your goals at Spire. Okay. You said it's sort of like an IMG academy. Will it be a sanctioned high school at one point, or is it sanctioned now?
They're accredited. Right now, we will never be in the OHSAA state tournament.
Gotcha.
We could compete against, St. Ed's, and we can compete against Detroit Catholic Central in tournaments, but we can't wrestle in the postseason against those schools. But we are going to be, the plan is to be approved and be sanctioned into the national preps next year. So that's the goal. And, a goal is to recruit and build a powerhouse team, that competes nationwide all over the country, gets to some of these big tournaments. You got the Ironman tournament, Brexville tournament, maybe come out to you guys and wrestle you guys in a duel, wrestle St. Ed's in a duel. That's the plan. That's the goal. That's the big goal. And then compete in the national preps. So along with like Blair Academy, Wyoming Seminary, and those elite schools.
You're seeing that, right? You're seeing these academies popping up. You saw Valiant Prep, right? They have the West Coast, they're rocking. Just absolutely incredible results out in Fargo and many of your national tournaments. Again, I don't believe they're sanctioned in Arizona. What is the benefit to a student athlete or a student going to an academy versus maybe a traditional high school? What do you see out of that?
It seems like first their school schedule is a little bit different. They try to do some kind of training in the morning, whether it be in their sport, strength training, or even mental training. Then they go to school from like 9:30 to 2:30, and then after school, they again do something, whether it be, sport specific, strength training. They have these mental training coaches that come in and that teach, the mindset and stuff like that. And these kids live here. They're constantly around the coaches and the teachers here. It's a small environment right now. And I think that's beneficial. And I don't think it's ever going to get really big to the point where there's going to be, so many athletes. It's going to be small. The facilities here are top notch. They had U23 nationals here last summer. And the strength program is amazing. The swimming pool. It's like a college campus.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable being here. And the goal is to get kids on, either to camps or tournaments to come check out the facility. And I'm pretty confident that once a kid steps on campus, they're going to be impressed with it.
Well, I can imagine. And you've been known for developing so many kids, as I said, through the Wrestling Factory and Gallagher, Andoni, and Reaney, a number of the guys that go to St. Ed's. How do you think that will impact the academy? And I'm sure on a lot of people's minds, how will that impact St. Ed's?
Yeah, I think the one thing, I mean, it'd be great to get a lot of these young factory kids and future kids to come to Spire, but I think our goal is more be nationally. I don't think it's going to interfere with St. Ed's. Their tradition's unbelievable. They've got great coaches, great tradition. I think we're going to get some local kids, but the goal is to get nationally, to go out there and build and recruit all over the country. And then even internationally. I know the basketball program here, swimming and track and field have international students, so we just got to find kind of our outreach out to, around the world, and I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Mike, you see so many high-level young wrestlers today, right? You look at the Bishop McCourt situation. You look at, just wrestlers all over the country that are winning Fargo titles freshman year, and just incredible, development at such a young age that maybe wasn't around 20, 30 years ago, maybe even 10 to 15 years ago. What do you attribute that to? And being the wrestling mind that you have, what is separating some of these young guys today versus maybe 10, 15 years ago?
I think it's a combination of coaches, club coaches, high school coaches that are really passionate about coming back and helping out at their school or at their club. And then just the technology with having, flow wrestling and just anything. You can learn any move, any technique, any practice drill. The vault is a great tool for anybody that's wanting to expand and learn, skills. I signed up last year for it. Every time I get a chance to pick another coach's brain or watch something else, I'm always trying to do that to better myself as a coach and help my athletes. So I think technology is helping. And I think a lot of these clubs, you got these college guys coming back from being college All-Americans or just college wrestlers, and they're coming back and they're giving back to the sport and they're running clubs. And I know in Ohio, we got a bunch of clubs popping up all over. So it's pretty cool. And I think technology just, like I said, you could pop an iPad out, watch some video, and you could learn from that.
You use the word club coach, right? And then as a traditional high school coach, I would imagine a lot of these high school coaches sort of maybe get nervous about kids exploring out to clubs, right? And not wanting to lose their local athletes. Maybe a small town school, small city school, they want their kids in place. So maybe they get nervous with working with a club coach. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of club involvement and having a club coach maybe in the off season, and why maybe a high school coach's nerves can be put to rest?
Yeah, I mean, I think you get a good club coach, and all their goal is to help the wrestler, help the individual, and to travel, in the off season when the high school coach maybe is busy or has a life or a family. The club coach comes in great, takes you to preseason tournaments, takes you to postseason tournaments, and you get a good club coach with good character, and they just want to help the individual get better at wrestling. They're not recruiting for their certain school or program. They're there to help the kids. And if you bring all these kids together, the training, iron sharpens iron is huge. And the better kids you get around your kids, the better they're going to be. I think that's the ultimate goal for a club coach.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I know we work closely here with Nick Simmons and other coaches around the state that are just able to give their knowledge, right, and willing to help. And I think, what you say there makes a total sense. Talk a little bit about your career at Michigan and what draws you took from the University of Michigan, and what you think was the biggest hurdle from being a high school phenom like yourself, right? Cadet World team member, multiple-time state champ, came out of high school as an ASIC Tigers first-team All-American. I mean, remarkable. What was the biggest hurdle for you, right, as a high school senior jumping into the Big Ten? And what were your biggest takeaways from the University of Michigan and being a college wrestler?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I went to Michigan was, I went on a bunch of official visits, and I fell in love with the campus, with the coaches, with the team, the wrestlers on there. They had a lot of good workout partners that I knew were going to push me, a lot of older guys that were going to push me. And I think one of the biggest adjustments is just, everybody in the college room is pretty good. Everyone's a state champ, and if they're not a state champ, they've improved a lot in college, and they're strong and they're physical and they're mature. and they have good technique, so I think, just the intensity in the room is much higher. Now, I was fortunate to come from a good program, St. Edward High School, where we had college guys coming back all the time during, Christmas break or Thanksgiving break to roll with us. We had great coaches that would roll with us. So I think that made the adjustment a little bit easier as opposed to someone from a smaller school going into college. I think mat wrestling is huge, learning how to wrestle on the mat. In Ohio, we're pretty good on our feet, but I think we can get better on the mat, top position and bottom position. And I think that's the big factor, especially in college. If you could get out on bottom and if you could ride guys and pretty close and you're pretty even on your feet, you're going to win a lot of matches, and just going through, it's a grind. The college season's a grind. You got to be healthy. You got to be positive. You got to have a good coaches that keep you motivated. And it's a long, grueling season in college, and you got to be ready for that. So it's important you have a good relationship with the coaches and your teammates.
Oh, it's funny you bring up mat wrestling because I know, Coach Borelli, when I wrestled at Central, would always bring up the point that, a really good high school wrestler is challenged a few times throughout the year. But other than that, majority of the matches they're wrestling in, they're taking these guys down and cutting, taking them down and cutting. And I think I agree with you. I think that's a huge hurdle. The mat wrestling, to be able to get off bottom, be able to seal off, get to your feet and so on, is a challenge for young wrestlers, now. So it'll be interesting, obviously, as the college season starts up this weekend. I know we have Michigan State Open, several duels going on around the country. What interests you about this year? What are you excited to see? What developments? I know you're, a local Cleveland guy, Michigan roots, Columbus roots. I mean, what are you excited to see this year's college season?
Well, I'll be following, my factory wrestlers that are at Virginia Tech, Ohio State, at Columbia University, Princeton. So, I'll try to see as much and watch as much wrestling as I can and follow them, especially these early opens. I think a lot of them will be competing. Got guys at University of Penn as well. And so I'll be following those guys. I'll be trying to get to as many matches as I can. Definitely be going down to the Virginia Tech Ohio State match coming up next week. So there should be some pretty good matches, and I'll definitely be at the NCAA tournament. Last year I got to the ACC tournament, got to watch a lot of Virginia Tech wrestle, and plan on doing the same this year.
It's exciting. Do you stay in touch with your former athletes? Do you talk about wrestling to them? Do you still offer them suggestions? I mean, you've been through that grind you alluded to earlier. And I know as it gets closer to conference season at the end of the year, how often are you in touch with those athletes? What suggestions you give them, and so on?
I just, I try to stay in contact. I know it's a grueling season. It could be tough. There's a lot of injuries and ups and downs. So I'll try to text the guys. And a lot of times I don't even ask about wrestling. I just ask how they're doing with school, if they're healthy, how their family's doing. I try to keep it simple. And if they want to reach out and ask a little bit about technique or this, then, but they got good college coaches for a reason. My job is done with them. I just try to stay in contact with them and let them know I'm here to support them. And if they need anything whatsoever, I'm here for you.
Mike, you're a new high school coach, right? You've been coaching wrestling forever. I know you got the guys coming in. You have your training cycles probably laid out. What suggestions do you have for a high school coach, right? We start our season here November 14th. What suggestions do you have for a high school coach who is just starting his own program, much like you? What thoughts do you have, right? What dilemmas are you working through, and what suggestions could you perhaps give a high school coach?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is you got to build a relationship with the kids before you get even on the mat and work on technique, or you put your practice plan together. You got to get to know the kids a little bit. You got to let them know you care about them, that you're here for them. And it's more about them being successful on and off the mat than just winning. I think that's the most important thing, building a relationship, building the culture, letting them understand, the rules of the room and kind of the culture you want to create. I think that's the number one thing, and kind of setting the tone early, making sure they're getting to practice early, and working hard during practice, staying after, working on things. And, if they need anything, you can always contact us and reach out to us. I think it's important to work on a lot of technique. You got to have a good basis. Hopefully they've been doing some preseason work where, and they've been going to their club coaches, or, just getting a good drilling background. I think technique is important, especially early on. Making sure you're hitting all three positions. And then as the season goes, you can start upping up the conditioning and stuff like that. So, it's kind of, you don't have a whole lot of time to prepare these guys before competition starts, but, you got to make sure they're certified, what weight classes they're going, if they're high, making sure they're staying hydrated. So that's all things we're working on here, making sure we get certified soon. And just kind of building a relationship with the kids. Number one thing.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think you talked about, maybe perhaps just having some patience, right? You talked a little bit about developing all three phases of wrestling, but also knowing that the conditioning will come along with the season, right? So sometimes I think coaches, including myself, you want to come out of the gate so damn fast because you're trying to win, right? And win early at these competitions, but also recognizing that it's a journey and trying to peak these guys for the end of the year. What suggestions do you have for that journey? What suggestions do you have for those coaches that perhaps, want to win now, but also have to keep the end goal in mind?
Yeah, I think you got to have your goals lined up. What's the most important thing you want to do? I mean, obviously winning is probably one of the top goals, but when do you want to win? Do you want to win now, or do you want to win towards the end of the season? And, I've seen it. I think I've been part of some teams where we got in really good shape early on. We were in great condition. We were running like crazy. And then towards the end of the year, we kind of, we weren't peaking, we were kind of beat up, injuries, a lot of wrestling has to do with feeling good, being in good shape, but being healthy, and you're not always going to be healthy at the end of the year. You're not going to always be healthy throughout the year. I know come NCAAs, there's only probably a few guys that are healthy at the end of the year. And, so it's important making sure the guys are recovering well, getting enough sleep, doing everything outside the room just as important as what they do inside the room. The 2 hours they spend in the room is important, of course, but they got to be living that championship lifestyle. I believe that's the number one thing. The most successful guys I've been around or coached or even been teammates were guys that as soon as they left the room, they're going to bed on time. They were eating right. They weren't staying out late. They were doing everything outside the room, correctly. They were living that championship lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about a grind, right? You wrestled in college. I've wrestled in college. I mean, it's a challenging situation, but so is the high school season, right? So do we as coaches have to coach our athletes smarter, not necessarily harder, right? I keep alluding to 10, 20 years ago. It was all about a grind, and you hear the word grind a lot. It seems like the sport is evolving a lot, and coaches aren't necessarily putting their athletes through the grind. Rather, they're trying to make it fun. They're trying to make it creative, and then they're also keeping in mind the recovery process. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's, so much science now with recovery and feeling good. And, you see a lot of these college programs are always playing games to warm up. And it's probably one of the best ways to get guys warmed up. I know coming in, when I was in high school and college and going through the warm up day after day could be a grind, and, try to make it fun a little bit. You still got to put the work in. You got to still put the smart training in, but you got to make it fun as much as possible, because wrestling is a grind at all levels, high school and college. And it's gotta be fun. It's gotta be smart training for sure. You gotta still be working hard. You still have to be doing all the things right to be successful.
Mike, you got a talented incoming freshman coming into a program, right? There's going to be hurdles along the way. What suggestions and advice do you give to those parents, right, who perhaps have a freshman who's entering the high school ranks, who maybe had some success in elementary or middle school? And you've worked with those guys, right? You've had a slew of them. What advice do you give to those parents when that high school career does start?
I think it's important for the parents to be just supportive, let the kids know that you love them no matter what, and let the coaches do what coaches do. The parents are there to support the kid, to take care of them when they're home, but the coach is there to, coach them and train them and do everything during the season. So I think it's important for the parents, let the coaches be coaches, parents be parents, communicate if you need something, but, trust in the coaches. There's a reason your son's going to this school. There's a reason your daughter's going to this school. because you trust the coaches. You got to continue trusting the coaches, because it's, you know, you're going to get beat up. It's a long season. It's a long 4 years of high school or college where you're going to have ups and downs, but you got to trust the coaches and support your kid.
No, great point. You know, and getting towards the end of this interview, talk a little bit about your time at Eds, your time with Urbis and Robat, you know, Mark Jane, you know, Lenore, Gray Maynard, just so many great wrestlers that went off to so many different schools. What experience did you take from Eds, and what makes that place so special?
Yeah, I think it was, you know, we all came from, you know, similar backgrounds, but, you know, Gray Maynard came from Las Vegas and came in as a junior. But I think the one thing we all had, our goal was, you know, we all wanted to do well in high school. We all wanted to wrestle in college, and we all came together to work hard, train hard. And we all had the desire and passion to be great, you know. And I think it's when everyone takes care of themselves and works hard in the room, the whole team comes together, you know. And you know, we didn't really have to worry about too many guys, you know, messing around, goofing off. Everybody had their specific goal. And when you have your specific goal, the team comes together, you know. And we had great coaches with Coach Urbis and Coach Heffernan, always leading the way. And, you know, those guys are role models. They live the way they preach, and it's easy example to see it, you know. And when you have good coaches and good mentors, you want to give back to them too. You want to win for them as much as you want to win for yourself.
Yeah, and Coach Urbis, obviously one of the more classy guys, you know, I've ever met. I can only imagine what it's like wrestling for him. You know, every time you tie your shoes and step on a mat, it's like you want to make that guy smile, right? And
Yeah,
Coach Heffernan
definitely.
obviously bringing the intensity level and so on. So it's a pretty remarkable program. I know they've established so much success over the last few decades. And, you know, I just wanted to get you on today and congratulate you on your new position. And again, I received many texts and direct messages on Twitter about the new position. And you know, with your knowledge and your background, I'm sure, you know, the Spire Academy will be a national power in no time. So good luck to you.
Thanks, Mitch.
What your ventures are. And I just appreciate your friendship and everything you do for the sport and so on. You're as good as they get, Mike.
Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it. And good luck to you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. Have a great year.
We'll see you.